Welcome to Biker Talk, and this time for part 2 of my virtual chat with Cycle News road test editor and current Pikes Peak record holder Rennie Skaysbrook. So Rennie, tell me a little bit about the Pikes Peak course and what it's like to compete at altitude.
The course it's 12 miles from start to finish. So it starts at 9,000 feet, finishes at 14,000 feet. And yeah, you only ever get one crack at it. It's in practice, they divvy the thing up into 3 sections. So you'll do like the start to Glen Cove in the morning, and then you've got all the hairpins for your second day of practice. And then the last day of practice is that to the top. And that's the really fast part. That's the really scary part, because it's, your 5th and 6th gear most of the time. And there's a lot, you're obviously very, very, very high up. And so the altitude kind of gets to you, and the oxygen deprivation sort of gets to you a little bit. And then on the 4th day of practice, you get a wild card. So you might get the front again, you might get the top, middle, whatever it may be. So I raced there for 4 years. The first year, it was me and Tom Moen, who's the media guy at KTM. We did a project with KTM where we built up a KTM Super Duke with a whole bunch of power parts, and went there the first year. That was a tough first year. I should have probably won the thing, but I threw it into the wall. The second year came back with the proper factory KTM team. I was teammates with Chris Fillmore, and we went 1-2, and Chris broke the record, and I finished second. The next year, 2018, again was factory KTM, and Carlin Dunn and I went head to head, and he beat me by 0.6 of a second, which still stings. After 10 minutes of racing, that hurt. But and then I won it in 2019 when racing for Aprilia, which was a pretty tragic year, obviously, with Carlin's death. And it's one of those places that kind of feel like I guess it's kind of like the Isle of Man in a way. It gets in your blood, and it's completely terrifying, but the most exhilarating thing I've ever done in my life. When the weather was good and the track was clean, it was the best place in the world to ride your motorbike. And it's like having a national park closed down and safety's like, right, off you go. And it was pretty cool. There was a lot of really cool moments at the place.
To get that record in 2019, a lot of things had to go right, and obviously you had a great team behind you. But when you crossed the line, did you realise that you'd beaten Chris Fillmore's record? And when did you find out about Carlin's tragic accident?
Yeah, funnily enough, because Chris was the one that told me. So Chris was at the top. He was competing in the lightweight class, and his whole deal was to get the record in all 3 classes. He actually started the opposite way, started in the heavyweight and went to the middleweight and then the lightweight. And so for about 2 minutes, he had all 3 records. And then I came over the line, and I didn't know the time, but he was like looking at me doing these ones. And so I was just like, it felt like, 4 years of hard work, and it finally happened. And I just started going, and screaming and whatever. And, but I didn't know, this is kind of where the tale turns a bit. Like, I didn't know obviously what was going on with Carlin. And so I started doing these interviews, and I remember saying to the interviewers, like, hang on a minute, what the hell's Carlin? Like, he should have come over the line ages ago. And then we found out that he crashed, and then I was like, okay, right, is he all right? And I remember this bloke came up to me, and during the interview said, no, he's all right. Like, he sat up and all this stuff. It never happened. He was basically dead on the spot. So, that took all the shine off it, unfortunately. Carlin was on track to beat my record, and I would have held the record for about 30 seconds if he'd actually crossed the line. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that if it were me, if it were Carlin, obviously, Chris Fillmore, maybe Lucy Glockner or Cody Baschholtz, who are the 5 quickest guys there the last few years, kind of carries a bit of weight with it. And Carlin being the king of the mountain, the guy who won the most races there out of anybody, that unfortunately put the nail in the coffin as far as racing at the mountain goes, which kind of sucks. Although there are a couple of people who are trying to get the race back. Don't know if it'll ever happen or not. But it was damn good fun when it lasted.
So let's flip over to Isle of Man. So you were due to ride Isle of Man in 2020, and obviously COVID restrictions put an end to that. How did that come about?
Through Dave Johnson, TT racer, Aussie boy. So Davo and I are good mates, and I was sitting on a beach in Dana Point down the road, just having a beer and looking at the sunset. And I just was like, so I sent him a text and I said, "We reckon the chances of me getting in at the TT are?" This was about 2 months after Pikes. He goes, "Pretty good. Do you want me to send an email?" And I'm like, "Yeah, all right, okay, whatever." So, and then 2 days later, I had a verbal confirmation basically from the Isle of Man government that they would sponsor me, and it would be the journalism racer type deal, which is what Pikes always was anyway. Trying to relay the experience, I guess. So obviously COVID hit, and then there was talk it was going to come back again this year. If it were on this year, we would be up the start line pretty much now. And yeah, so that didn't happen. But I had a couple of interviews with some teams over there, and in the end I got the ride with the PRF racing team. I don't know if this is entirely correct, but I'm pretty sure that if I do it, Dad and I will be the first father-son to do the actual TT since the Hintons, I think, back in the 40s and 50s. Well, the only thing that's going to stop me from doing it is the TT government has installed a couple of years ago now, like you have to be under 40 years old to do the actual TT if you're a rookie. And so long as everything goes ahead, I get under by 2 months, because I'll be 39 and 3/4 by the time the flag drops on the Supersport TT. I've wanted to race the TT from that high, so I can't wait to get out there and have a go.
How do you think your dad Jim will feel when you do get over there?
I remember when I told him I was going to do it, and there's this long silence on the phone. He just said, "What?" Like he knew what I said. My mum always said to me that if I ever did the TT, she'd come and break my legs. But the thing is too, it's like, I think I'm going in the right circumstances. I trust myself more as a rider now, especially after after the Pikes. Like I feel like I can get to a reasonable level and not make any too rash a decision, not be completely slow either, and just be safe around a place like that. If it was 10 years ago or 15 years ago when I first started riding these bikes as a living, then yeah, I would have killed myself for sure. So you got to learn the track. Absolutely. I mean, that was key with Pikes. Like I knew the track backwards before I even went there from the video games and the YouTube videos and that stuff. And that's the same thing with the Isle of Man. You got to know exactly where you're going. There's no excuse for not knowing exactly where you are on the track. Mum and Dad have been pretty cool about it. I think they kind of knew it was coming eventually.
Mate, I can't wait to see some vision of you riding over there, because I think that would be absolutely awesome. Rennie, thanks for the chat, and I look forward to catching up with you when you can eventually get back to Australia.
That'd be great. Yeah, thanks, Ross.
If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to find out more about Rennie's win at Pikes Peak in 2019, then head over to cyclenews.com or check out the Cycle News YouTube channel. There's also a wonderful article by Rennie on the rivalry and the friendship he shared with Cullen Dunn. There's plenty more stories coming up on the channel, including one with Rennie's dad, Jim Skaisbrook, who is an absolute legend in the Aussie motorcycling world, and also the editor of Old Bike magazine. Till next time, remember, you can't buy happiness, but you can ride a motorcycle, and that's kind of the same thing.